Hey everybody, it's Nichelle here again with birthuhura here at birthuhura. I'm a full spectrum plant-based holistic doula and an advocate for all things safe, natural, and effective. Here on this channel, we discuss all things pregnancy, birth, and womb health related. So if you guys like the content, you like what you hear, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Today's topic is going to be about rushing. I want to talk about the idea of rushing birthing women by setting up the idea of a due date, by popping water, inductions, just all of that stuff. I really want to just talk about the idea of rushing because it just seems like, and even I'm going to focus though on when we're in labor. This is a personal experience for me because I remember being, I think it was my middle child, I think. So I was told that I was progressing too slow. Like I had been there for 4 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I had been in the hospital for 4 hours. And the doctors told me that my progress was too slow and I was moving too slow and they wanted to give me Pitocin, which I refused. I just didn't want to do that. And I knew that I just didn't want to have any of that kind of stuff in my body, especially because I had no real knowledge of it back then. Like I knew what it was, but I didn't know like the ingredients. And they would just tell you stuff like, well, it's safe and we use it all the time and it's not going to harm you. All of that kind of stuff. And it's like, that's not really, I'm the type of person that I have to devour every piece of information before I make an actual decision. So if you come to me saying, oh, try something, and I don't know everything about it, that I feel as though I'm comfortable with making the decision, then I just won't do it. So that was me, and that's always been me. So I'm grateful for that aspect about myself. But back to the experience. So they were like, yeah, you've been here for 4 hours, you haven't, your contractions are still the same. But I knew that I was in labor. I knew that I felt something different. I had such an anxious, nervous, jittery feeling in my body that I had never had before. I felt the heaviness, the weight in my pelvis, and all of these different things. But at the 4 hour mark, I was already being pushed to get Pitocin. Fast forward to the 7 hour mark. Then it's like, well, we want to break your water. And I think I had that done with my first child. They did like a balloon pop. And then my water broke maybe like a couple minutes later. But I didn't like it. So I said no. So here's the thing. We put all of this pressure. Like we come into the birth space. Most of the time it's in hospital, right? We come into this birth space and it's like, okay, change it to this, do this, do this, do this, do this. We need to get you on a monitor. We need to get you, like, it's just like a rush. It's like a big rush. Like, rush everything, rush the person, rush the baby out. That is freaking dangerous, first of all. There is no need. It's nothing that says that if you don't have your baby in 3 hours, that a catastrophe is going to happen. I literally don't understand. First of all, a woman can be in prodromal labor for a whole week. I would have rather them told me to go home than to try to do all of these interventions. And I understand that at this point, I think I was almost 40. I think it was 42 weeks. And so they didn't want me to go home. They were like, oh, you have to have this baby today. But I would have rather them say, go home, finish laboring at home, and come back and have your baby, right? But no, they wanted to give me Pitocin, which I denied. They wanted to pop my water, which I denied. But what I didn't notice is that they didn't ask me to get up, to walk. They didn't offer me a yoga ball. They didn't offer me any exercises. They didn't tell me to get into squat position. They didn't tell me to have some warm fluid. They didn't tell me to do any affirmations. They didn't tell me to work with pressure points, acupressure. They didn't tell me to do anything other than medical interventions. It was more like, oh, we're just going to augment your labor so we can hurry up and get this baby born. But basically, what they were telling me was I was taking up space. What they were telling me was they needed to rush me because there were other people who had to come in and birth, and that I was taking too long. And see, this is not how we're supposed to birth. It is not designed for us to be pressured and scared and have people annoying us and constantly trying to convince us to do things that we don't want to do. This is not the way labor is. It's not the way it's supposed to be. Birth is not supposed to be like that. And so for me, I just want to put this video out there so other people don't feel pressure into being rushed. Like I said, if there is nothing going on significantly with the baby where it's like vital signs are bad, heart rate dropping, you're not bleeding, your vital signs are good, baby is moving, you're counting kicks, your blood pressure is fine, everything is fine, you're fine, all your signs are fine, everything that it's all good. Why are we rushing? Because that's my question. Why are we rushing? I'm fine, baby's fine, everybody's fine. What are we rushing for? Now, I can see if you say, okay, well, go home and finish, continue laboring at home and then come back when you're closer to being done. I would have accepted that more than all of the other stuff. But I just want to point out that there's no time frame. I've heard people say, I was in labor for 42 hours. I was in labor for a week. In the hospital. There's been time people have been in the hospital hooked up to all the monitors, IVs, all of that, in the hospital for a whole week in labor before they just said, you know what, we just got to do a C-section. But here's the thing. When you're in the hospital, you're in the bed. You're hooked up to machines. They're most of the time, I'm not going to say none of them, but they're not advocating for movement. They're not advocating for upright. You're laying down, right? You're on your back. Then they're advocating for epidurals. They're advocating for all of the stuff that will make it more likely for you to have issues. So please do not be coerced or scared into rushing. You do not have to have your baby in 3 hours. You do not have to have your baby in 5 hours. In fact, my first birth was 15 hours. My first labor, yes, I was in labor for 15 hours. My second, I was in labor for 11 hours. My third one, I was in labor for 9 hours. So you don't have to be afraid to take your time, to let your body do what it's supposed to do. If, again, your vitals are good, the baby vitals are good, the heart rate is good, you're not in ridiculous amounts of pain where like your heart rate is dropping or you're not bleeding, there's really no reason to rush. There's no reason to rush the process of birth because it can take time. And even with the due date, I remember I talked about this before, where I spoke about, 42 weeks is fine. And they say that 42 weeks is fine. I have seen studies. I have read actual studies where people have gone to 44 weeks pregnant and have birthed healthy children. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you that it happens. And how do we actually know how far in pregnancy that we are? These things are estimates. The ultrasound is never 100% correct. And yeah, we don't know. We don't know from the time we got pregnant to, every baby grows at different rates. Every person is different. People's cycles change. It's not like, everybody is not like super clockwork. So it's like, how can we really, decide how many weeks and where and what time and what place that you should have your baby. So please just understand that it's not necessary to rush. Sometimes actually rushing causes so much anxiety, so much stress, so much tension that you actually prolong your labor because you're stressed out and you're afraid and you're scared. Nobody's making you feel comfortable, so you don't even feel safe. You feel like, oh my God. So you're holding back. Sometimes you might be actually ready to have that baby, but because of all of the other things that are going on, and the lack of support and the lack of understanding, and all that pressure, you're literally holding back because you're afraid, you're anxious, you're worried, you don't know what to expect. But when you have people in your corner and they're supportive and they're motivating you and they're guiding you and they're helping you and they're being patient with you and they're tender, it's just an easier process. It's an easier process and it's a better process. It's a more beautiful experience. So that's what I advocate for. I don't advocate for rushing women, especially in labor. Send her home. If you're a person who birthed at a hospital, birthed at a birth center or whatever, and they're taking too long for you, and you think they have the time, send them home. But don't try to bombard them into all of these rabbit hole full of interventions, because this causes problems. And do we want unhealthy babies? Do we want mothers unsuccessfully giving birth? Do we want mothers to be dying? Do we want that? We don't. So if we don't want that, we have to stop doing the same thing over and over again. We have to come up with a better system, a better philosophy around birth. Is so important. We are dying way too much, and for no reason. Most of the time, it's for no reason. It's not justified, and it's very sad. It's definitely very disheartening, and I think that we must start to take accountability, and be fierce. We have to be fierce. We have to be sure about ourselves. We have to know this is what I want. This is what I don't want, and that's just that, because no is a complete sentence, right? All right. So that's my take on it. If you guys have questions, if you have a topic that you want me to talk about that I haven't already talked about, please reach out to us at birthuhura@gmail.com. I will see you guys for the next video. Thank you guys so much. I'm Nichelle, a full spectrum holistic doula with Birthuhura. Peace and pregnancy dust.